Coinbase app cannot transfer NFTs unless it pays Apple its dues. New Cardano algorithmic stablecoin evokes old fears for the community, and attackers pocket $20 million in exploits on Ankr and Helio. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Assets of Value podcast. Today, on 2nd of December, and every day, we connect to give an industry insider's perspective on crypto, Web3, and NFT topics. We are the founders of Assets of Value, a Web3 research organization. Our podcast is not to be taken as legal or financial advice. Abe, last day of the week, what are the markets looking like today?
The market is looking exactly as the same yesterday, and we can see so much positive sentiments returning into the space, maybe from Web2 world and from the Web3 world also, because there has been a massive hack on Ankr, and Ankr is taking some measures to mitigate the losses. I think this is pretty good for the crypto ecosystem.
We'll unpack this in a minute, but the question I'm asking, how can a hack be positive for the system? But before we move on, Bitcoin is holding that 17,000 price point. Ethereum is up nearly 8% for the past 7 days. And we've got the usual suspects still in the top 10. We've got the stable coins, BNB, XRP, Doge. Doge is representing Cardano, and Matic Solana is still continuing to struggle. But yeah, let's dive straight into it with this Ankr hack then. How is that positive for Web3 and crypto?
Well, the hack itself is an unfortunate incident, and the hack is not a positive news. Maybe if the hackers decide to redistribute the funds, the stolen funds, maybe then we can term it as positive. But currently, Anger has decided that the impact of the hack is worth $5 million, and what they'll do, they'll just buy $5 million worth of BNB from the market and distribute to all the liquidity providers so that they don't suffer a loss. And even BNB, it's a centralized chain, it's a centralized institution, and they just take actions whenever a hack happens. Nobody loses funds on BNB, and that's pretty impressive, right? Because even though the centralized dilemma exists with the BNB chain and the BNB ecosystem, they are taking actions to mitigate the losses of investors, like people, generic people in crypto.
So essentially, what you're saying is that yes, Anchor was compromised, but the fact that they are going to reimburse anyone who's been affected, this is extremely positive news for the space. And then you gave an example of Binance doing the same thing, although they're a centralized party. What we're seeing is maturity, we're seeing ownership.
Exactly, Shwab, because ownership and accountability changes a lot of things. Do you remember when other networks and other bridge solutions were hacked? These people, developers belong to these exchanges, issued statements like return our funds, otherwise we'll take stringent actions. And they didn't talk to the people who deposited their funds, who lost their funds in the situation. They were barely trying to get back the money and then decide what to do. But Anger's strategy is different. Anger has clearly said that we will reimburse the affected persons first, and then we'll try to regain the lost funds. That's a brilliant strategy. That's a consumer centric and positive strategy, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, who are the main users of Anchor and Helio? I mean, what services does Anchor and Helio provide, and why do you think they were targeted?
Anchor has a lot of space in the crypto world. Like it does offer a variety of infrastructure solutions ranging from RPC. And although these RPC endpoints Anchor provides, it's for Ethereum, BNB chain, and a lot more chains. These are centralized. Anchor is a centralized organization, it's not decentralized. And whatever Anchor does, they basically operate decentralized finance infrastructure. For example, wrapping BNB, providing collateral against that BNB for various assets, etc. I'm merely mentioning the BNB ecosystem activities of Anchor, and they does it in Ethereum also. They does it in other chains also. So Anchor, we can say it's an infrastructure provider in the crypto space, a very reputable provider.
Okay, so you mentioned RPC. So essentially, it's a remote procedure call, i.e., a request from a function or a action that it needs to take, almost facilitating one transaction to another transaction and then passing it across the blockchain and keeping the networks up and available essentially. So it seems like it was an infrastructure exploit. Is that correct?
Yeah, nearly. The hackers found a flaw in the system and they borrowed a lot of BNB, and then they liquidated this BNB against anger wrapped BNB. And using this liquidated collateral, they bought a lockup coin, and then they liquidated that coin in 1 inch exchange. And that's the whole story behind it. And then later they cleared off the funds using Tornado Cash.
Thanks for that summary. Really nicely, concisely put. And Tornado Cash, you mentioned, comes into news. I know that there's a movement to ban Tornado Cash, or anyone seemed to be using or interacting with that is essentially painted a criminal, saying that its only purpose exists is for embezzling funds. But that's a different discussion for a different day. Let's change gears here and switch over to Apple, a Web2 firm. Usually it's very positive when Web2 firms embrace Web3 or crypto, but whenever Apple is involved, it's definitely newsworthy. But on this occasion, it's potentially not for the right reasons. So the Coinbase app, in its current release, cannot transfer NFTs unless it pays Apple's its dues. So what Apple wants is essentially a 30% cut on the gas fees. But that's not exactly how blockchain technology works. Are they out of touch? And should they be enforcing this, or is this an oversight on Apple?
Let's see this picture clearly. The revenue mechanism for Coinbase is from the gas, right? And they only own a very little share of the gas because that is also used by miners. And imagine if Apple demands 30% of the gas, I'm pretty sure even Coinbase is not receiving 30% of that transaction. And this becomes an unprecedented situation. Apple is demanding too much, and Apple is clearly trying to influence these crypto based payment solutions and crypto based platforms, be it Coinbase or anything. Unless they pay Apple 30%, they can't operate. And this is a bad situation. And Android doesn't charge you anything. Google Play Store doesn't charge you anything if you are hosting your app on it, or if you are making your app available on Google Play Store. And I think crypto people at least have to move away from Apple for the time being if they want to trade NFTs.
It feels like Apple's a little bit out of touch in terms of its current offerings or its current terms and conditions in regards to crypto and Web3. That 30% fee that it's used to charging, which built up Apple to be the company that it is today, doesn't really sit well within the crypto sphere. It certainly needs to be looked at. And I'm just thinking, who or when will a blockchain based phone come about? So we know that Solana is doing something on that front. Do you know of any other player that could be considering such a move?
In case of royalties, almost every platform has made royalties enforceable. That means creators get their share even after the collections are transferred, traded, or wrapped, anything. But in crypto, there are not much organizations that is charging such an enormous fee just to facilitate the transaction. Not even MetaMask. MetaMask is just charging 5% on your transactions if you are using MetaMask Swap or MetaMask Bridge function. And 5% is not 30%, right? And MetaMask rightly ask for it because MetaMask hold and facilitate the infrastructure around swapping and bridging. Apple doesn't do any of that. It just publishes an app in its store, and maybe asking for 5% or 10% is okay, but 30% it's little too much.
Well, people need to get paid. I wonder how much of that goes into R&D and how much of that goes into top exec bonuses. However, they have a right to charge whatever they want. I just feel that it really needs to take a look at how much of a player it needs to be, or it needs to really take a look at how much of a player it wants to be within the Web3 space. Apple is usually notoriously late to the scene, but they do end up owning it or delivering it in a way that suits them and their ethos. So I think everyone is watching what Apple does when it does embrace Web3 and enters that space with full commitment. Cardano has been making headlines. I saw a report saying that it had the most developer activity out of the top layer one blockchains. I don't know if I actually believe that, but the new Cardano algorithmic stablecoin evokes old fears for the community. Why? My question when I come across pieces like this, why do blockchains need a stablecoin? And why are the Cardano community concerned about this?
It's a great question, Shwab. And why are we in the need of a stable coin? Because it all comes to a basic economic principle, that is purchasing power. For example, if you are in a system where you trade cryptocurrencies against cryptocurrencies, then you are at disadvantage because you cannot make use of the volatility. And let's be frank with each other. We know that one Bitcoin is always equal to one Bitcoin, but its value changes. And it would be nice for investors to take profit at 69K and reinvest at 16K, right? And if they are doing that, they would be holding four times the Bitcoin they would have held in the past. And then when these investors take intelligent financial actions, they can always sell the top and buy the bottom. And during that process, they increase their Bitcoin holding or altcoin holding or in general asset holdings. And that's why stablecoins matter, because it increases and optimizes your purchasing power. Secondly, crypto is not designed as a payment mechanism. Like, it can be a legal tender, but it can't be a legal tender in effective manner, because people will be unlikely to spend their volatile assets for a cup of coffee or anything, and they will be better off spending stable coins, which is equivalent to a dollar, when they make purchases and everything. I think this is where most countries get it wrong. These countries adopt Bitcoin as the legal tender, but instead what they should have been doing is that adopting Bitcoin as their national asset. And maybe instead of holding other currencies in a basket, they should just invest in Bitcoin as an asset.
Thanks for breaking that down. Has Cardano ever released a stable coin? Because news is coming out that they are looking to launch an algorithmic stablecoin in 2023. Obviously, rightly so, various community members have expressed concerns, and what comes to light is the failed project of Terra USD. I thought that we had already worked this out. Is Cardano doing something different, or are we just running a tried and tested and failed playbook?
I don't know, but although I like the concept of algorithmic stablecoins, after the collapse of UST, everything is in shambles. And Cardano doesn't have much of a user base, like active user base, to really need a stablecoin. And I'm confused because, yes, I have read reports that Cardano in developer activity is spiking, is increasing, but I don't see much developments in the blockchain infrastructure. They are still running old technology with old transaction mechanisms and everything. Everything about Cardano seems old. With all respect to Cardano holders and Cardano people out there, I am not against the technology or I am not against the Cardano ecosystem, but I am just merely stating facts that Cardano is not progressing as its white paper imagined it to progress.
Yes, it seems like Charles Hopkinson is taking his time in perfecting the most desirable and most perfect blockchain and really thrashing out every thread in terms of solving the blockchain trilemma. Whether or not the stablecoin will actually take off, I'm not too sure. Unlike collateralized stablecoins, where each coin is fully backed by collateral, algorithmic stablecoins attempt to maintain their value, usually via various market operations. But we've seen in the past, they have frequently broken down and pretty dramatically. So I'm quite concerned if they're taking a left turn instead of the correct turn, and I'm just hoping that Charles knows that this is the direction to take it into, or is he trying to prove that he can actually crack this and do it correctly? It's something that will come to fruition early next year.
Funny thing about Charles is that whenever Elon Musk tweets about something, he just comes up and adds that I can build that for you. I can build that decentralized exchange for you. I can build that decentralized social platform for you, etc. But clearly, he couldn't build his product, Cardano, to the potential it promised to crypto holders. And that's why Cardano holders doesn't get enough return on their investment in this bull market.
Very funny indeed. Yes. Why would Charles jump at the opportunity to work with Elon when his focus should be on Cardano? Right, it's Friday. Is it low cap gem time, or is it a insight into your research time? Where do you want to take this before we wrap up?
I think we already gave two lockup gems yesterday. So, in terms of research, I'm looking at the possibility that what will be the situation of Bitcoin after December? Because December, although it sounds like a bullish month because of positive sentiment around the space, around Christmas and New Year, we wouldn't possibly know what will be the situation after December or after January. Because if you look closely, there are no bullish events or no positive events for crypto throughout 2023. I know that Bitcoin and other cryptos will survive the year even without any positive or dramatic events. But I think if we see some more exchanges failing, some more big people failing, I think crypto could take a negative turn here after January. But this is a long game to play, and there are no shortcuts. We have to weather the storm, and after the storm, there'll be always green lights and green pumps.
Brilliant. Always looking ahead. I cannot even see past the weekend at the moment. Really looking forward to that. It's been a tough week. And if you've been involved in crypto, I'm sure you'll certainly agree with that. We purposely avoided Sam Bankman Fried and the FTX saga. That's all across the internet. Make of it what you will. All I can say, as always, it's been super fun. I'm glad you were able to jam with us today. That's it. Until next time, have a great weekend. And we're signing off.